I'm JD, and this is Upfront and Personal. Digital transformation is all around us, but small and medium-sized companies appear to be slow in adopting. Why is that? Is it because of the technology providers? Is it because of the small and medium-sized companies themselves? We looked at that with Netspalaver during the virtual roundtables, and we found a lot of answers, but not yet enough. So, I asked Edwin Diender what his thoughts are on this topic. Upfront and personal. Edwin, there's one topic I am always very curious about and sometimes even concerned. The small and medium-sized companies, but also the self-employed and those really small ones with maybe only 2 or 3 employees. They are relatively slow in picking up and adopting digital transformation. But I am convinced that they are missing out a lot of opportunities because digital transformation, from my perspective, is not just for the big corporations. How can we help them and how can we improve that, Edwin?
Well, thank you again for having me. There are a couple of turns to take on this. The first one, of course, is that most of these freelancers, these small and medium enterprises or small office, home office kind of organizations are very efficient by themselves and within themselves. I'm quite convinced that they're using a lot of digital technology already with themselves and for themselves. So why is it not scaling is actually the question that you're asking. It's not scaling because the systems and services or the infrastructures that they need to tap into are siloed, proprietary, disconnected, very verticalized, and that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin maybe also sits with the additional systems and services and the ease of process that is not in place yet when it comes to starting up, when it comes to scaling up, when it comes to branching out, when it comes to leveraging. For example, if you're a grad student and you have the brightest idea upon which you just graduated, and now it's time to leverage that and make your own organization out of this, or see if you can have it work and organize that, then you need to follow through with a lot of physical processes perhaps that go along with it. So the second part that you could say is that the element of digital is maybe not fully leveraged yet to start that up and to scale that up. So to overcome this, it would be helpful to have a digital version of these physical processes, for example, with the Chamber of Commerce, where usually it starts. And from there, just like in a physical way where, for example, in Dubai, where they had, and still have, by the way, this Dubai Internet City #1 and Dubai Internet City #2. This is physically, but also digitally speaking, a lot of services combined. So where you normally have to go through physical things scattered throughout city center or different cities, this is now all combined in one industry park or one tech park, right? You get physically the Chamber of Commerce, the banking, the venture capitalist, the funding and financing part, the housing, the visa, the taxation. This whole mechanism physically is in one area. But digitally, you don't necessarily have to go there physically. You can also go there digitally and have the same services provided to you. I think that is those are the two parts of the same coin that doesn't allow small office, home office, and small and medium enterprises to start up and scale up in the most efficient manner versus these organizations being very digitized by themselves, but not able to tap into an infrastructure for a temporary time being in an assignment or in a program or an initiative or a project that they're part of, and then disconnect themselves from that.
That's very interesting, and I really appreciate the example that you also give, because we can do significantly more. There are examples of how that could be achieved, and you're fully correct when you say especially the smaller ones already use a lot of digital servers, but in a very silo-focused approach. With my media partner Netspalaver, we do a series of videos and virtual roundtables for the German market. And one of the things we have learned, or a couple of things that we have learned in that series, is that these small and medium-sized companies have the feeling that what is available is very generic and not specific enough for what they need. And the next thing that we learned is that most of them have some kind of bad experience in the past, and that keeps influencing their decisions. And we can say that's bad, but I have full understanding for that, because these smaller ones do not have the resources and budgets to just have an alternative or to just postpone delivery for 6 months, because they depend on it. They have to keep the shop running. So what we do is we say in this series with Netspalaver, how can we help these small and medium-sized businesses be better prepared for digital transformation? And how can we have a conversation with the technology providers that they zoom in a bit more and maybe offer 100 small solutions instead of the 2 really big ones, and see how we can meet in the middle. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, number one, this is the right way forward, because number two, what digital and automation allows you to do is to scale that up to the size that you just referred to versus the size that maybe is required or needed. The power of digital combined with the power of cloud and cloudification, for example, have 2 things very much in common, and which is needed very, very much as well. Number one, it is, of course, tremendously efficient. It is far more efficient from a digital point of view than from a physical point of view, regardless of how you look at it. But most importantly, if you're rolling certain initiatives out from a digital point of view, and you compare that to a physical point of view, if it doesn't really work, and if you would like to circle back or like to make some modifications, in the world of physical, it takes about twice as much time to roll back as it took the time to implement it. So if an initiative took about half a year to work out physically, to have a design for it and to have it engineered, and then to put it in place, and it took about 2 years to then build it, it will take about 4 years to circle all of that back. And it is money down the drain. In the world of digital, if it takes a couple of months to roll it out and a couple of months to test drive it, and it doesn't really work very well, because from simulations and 3D modeling, you can find that out, you can, number one, circle that back very fast, but it's not money down the drain. It is an input to your next step to optimize from a digital point of view and roll that out. And from your rollout, you can also roll it out faster, because parts of the rollout you don't need to put in place yet. So that is an important item to underline and to also recognize, I think.
I really appreciate that, Edwin, because the one thing that we need to educate, especially in the segment of smaller and medium-sized businesses, is digital transformation is not something you buy. It's a journey. It's a learning process. And by downsizing the steps you make, the impact of a wrong step, but a learning opportunity, is significantly less. And the thoughts and the mindset is still in, I buy something, I want to know what it costs, and I want to know what it brings. But the providers have moved into an agile world where we find solutions when we don't know the answers yet, right? That's what we do currently. And that is
Very
also,
true.
that mindset needs to be better aligned. But
Very
we need
true.
to help them understand it. That is critical.
Very true, very true. The point you earlier made about some of them being disappointed, I think it also sits with a transformational change in attitude, so to speak. As an entrepreneur, as a small or medium enterprise business owner, your disappointment has to be input to your next wave of innovation or your next step of development. Your disappointment should not be to turn off and turn down. Your disappointment should be input to either your next direction or your next wave or your existing wave in another way.
You are right as always, my friend. I thank you for taking this hot seat on a topic that matters to both of us. I am happy that you come from a very large corporation, Huawei, with a very global reach. I've spent the majority of my life in the corporate world, and both of us are still able and willing to zoom in on the small and medium-sized businesses and be an advocate for what they need. I truly appreciate that, because the one thing that we have to keep in mind, and globally, it is around 60% of the economy is carried by small and medium-sized businesses. If we look at Europe, that is even a little bit higher. When we go to China, it's not a little bit higher, it's a lot higher. In China, for example, up to 70%. Malaysia, there are a couple of really big and important corporations, and the rest of it is small and medium-sized. There are self-employed, there are the companies that are basically a job replacement, and these people put their entire existence in that small company, which is their job and income. I'm happy that we advocate for them, and I'm happy that we continue to look at how can we help them with digital tools. Edwin, thank you for taking this hot seat today. I'm looking forward to our next session because, believe me, I've already selected a couple of questions for you.
Well, thank you for having me. And maybe if you allow me to make a final comment on this part, you're very correct by saying that the small and medium enterprises are the engine of economies. That is so true. And what that means is that as an entrepreneur or as a business owner, the energy that you put into this is the energy that keeps this engine running. So if your energy is put in a certain way, this engine will run in a certain way. The recognition of that and acknowledging that is also a form of empowerment in being very proud and being very energized in the things that you do as a small and medium enterprise business owner. And I can only applaud that. Thank you for having me.
The stage
You're
has
welcome,
been
my
set.
friend.
All preparations are made. The challenge is accepted. Critical questions, real answers, cybersecurity, geopolitics, economy, sustainability. Question everything. Challenge the status quo and dare to see beyond the headlines. This is upfront and personal, with tough questions and real answers.
Dr. Ingenieur Johannes Drooghaag.